Hi everyone, in today's video I'm going to talk about Sanctuary Contest, some of the most popular tactics you should employ in this game mode, a few noteworthy characters you should definitely try to pick first, and as well as kind of the relationship between characters and how do you counter pick your opponent's choice. To add credibility for the strategy I will be talking about, I will just demonstrate, right now, as the time of recording, this is the first day of this event. I'm currently ranked 18th in this game mode. If you actually look at my log, you will notice that I've only lost 3 times in my first day. This is on my main account. I actually have a free-to-play account as well, and I have done even better in this one. I'm actually ranking third. I say third if you actually look at the points we have. It's actually tied for the first place. And if we look at the log, I've only lost a single time on my free-to-play account. So definitely, just to demonstrate the tactics I'm going to talk about would work for you. So definitely try this out in your account and see where would it take you to. Now, when we talk about Sanctuary Contest, there are actually two versions of this game mode. One is what I show on the screen, where you and your opponent both see 16 knights, out of which only 12 knights are visible, and you pick in order. So this is a bit of like a draft pick, where if you manage to pick one character, your opponent can't, and vice versa. This is the version I'm going to talk about in this video, because this to me is actually the more harder version where it needs a bit more strategic thinking. The other game mode is where kind of you and your opponent have your own knights. There's not too much strategy there. It's a bit more luck dependent on what are the knights that you see. And also what are the knights your opponents see. So I'm not going to talk too much about that game mode. Instead, I'll focus more on the strategy behind this version when you are it's more of a draft pick. So the first thing to note is the positioning of your knight. Now you might be thinking, I don't actually know how the enemies going to line up, so how can I position accordingly to counter that? But actually, that's exactly the point, because a lot of players are thinking like this. What they tend to do is they just click on their knights in the order they appear in, i.e. from left to right. However, the game actually has a default positioning when you click on knights, in the sense that your first protector knight or your first front row always goes from left, then right. So that's always the order they appear in. And whereas for your back row, it's always middle, left, right. So now knowing this, you can actually then look at the order of your opponent's character. If they are not careful about how they pick and just pick in the order that they appear in, what you can do is actually predict that the first protected knight in their list of knights will be the one on the left hand side, the second one will be on their right hand side, etc. So that would be the order if they don't actually think about what they pick and just click in the order they appear in. And likewise, you can predict the first back row knight they have will be the one in the middle, the second one they have will be the one on the left, and the third one they have will be the one on the right. So you can actually predict to some extent what the enemy line up and positioning would be. Obviously, this is assuming that they just click in the same order the knights appear in, but a lot of time because people don't realize this default ordering, that is actually what people do. So there's a good chance that you're able to counter position because of this. Now, the next thing to note is where your knights will be attacking into. So if we have protecting knights up front, what you see is all of your normal attack always go to the front row. So that's why the protected knights have high defense, because they try to guard the back line, etc. However, all of your skilled attack normally position directly into the respective positioning in the enemy team. So for example, if I have someone here, then they will be attacking to the enemy knight in this position as well. So what you want to do is make sure you have elemental advantage here for that 25% increase in damage. So like I said, if you are able to predict where the knight may be, then potentially you are able to counter position your knights in the same respective elemental advantage. Now, another thing I want to talk about is the order of attack when you have assassin knights who meant to wipe out the enemy. So Sagittarius is a very good example where you need to be really careful about his positioning. Sagittarius, every single time when he kills off an enemy, he recharges Cosmo, and a lot of time he would be able to use his ultimate again. And the order they would attacking is that, for example, if I wipe out the enemy Virgo Shun in this case, so I position my Sagittarius to take out this person, then naturally the next position they will fall into is the front row, respectively. Um, Likewise, if the Sagittarius is aiming at the death mark right now, once death mark is dead, the next position that the knight will be aiming for will be the front line at Libradorco. However, if you're aiming for someone in the middle, what happens is that this next attack wouldn't actually then be lined up again to someone in the front row. It will actually be lined up to Desmods. So this actually means if you do have a Sagittarius, the best position for him would actually be in the middle because normally frontline enemies are protected knights with high defense, so it's a lot harder to kill them off with your ultimate. However, back row knights are tend to be slightly more fragile and easier to take out in one go. Therefore, if you actually position Sagittarius in the middle position, you're able to wipe out the opponent's middle backline first and then move on to the backline on the right hand side rather than going to front. So that's something just to note, which is the positioning of your attacks. And this is especially important for Sagittarius, both in terms of where you position Sagittarius and also about how you can then also counterpick. Now I'm gonna do a bit of a tier list of the characters that you should pick in which order and also how do you counterpick, etc. Now for the tiers, I have first of all first pick. So everything on this list is kind of ordered also respectively in each level. So for example, if you have Evil Sega and Deathmaster, you should pick Evil Sega first. Now the ones on the first pick row, basically, if you see them, try to pick them first. They're all very good characters and they will help you immensely no matter what kind of position or what kind of formation you go in. Next, we have counter pick. A lot of them are good characters to have in general, but also more specifically, you pick them in order to counter certain knights in the first pick position. So, try to pick them if you see the opponent pick one of the ones that you're able to counter. But otherwise, in general, they're also very good characters just to have on any team. Next, we have this a bit of a triangle relationship with Iris, so Sagittarius Iris, because he actually fulfills a very unique role in this kind of game mode right now, where he's a very good counter pick and also a very good attacker. And you can either use knights to bring him out to the fullest, because he's very deadly when he is at full potential, or you can also bring some knights specifically just to counter him, to prevent him to go into a bit of a snowball effect, which I'll talk about later. Um, Next, we have this level, which is what I call formation decider. So all of the knights here are not, typically I wouldn't use them as my first pick. However, they are definitely good characters. So if you see a lot of them in the initial 12 knights that are visible, then that essentially kind of helps you to decide what formation bonus that you want to go for, because if you see loads of Earth Knights, then you say, okay, actually there are quite a lot of good Earth Knights, and therefore I actually want to pick a formation with, let's say, 3 good Earth Knights, etc. So yeah, everyone on this level is kind of what you use to decide what formation you go for. Then lastly, you have the formation fillers, who are not very good knights. However, sometimes you just need them for your last pick in order to get to a formation bonus. So definitely only use them as a last resource, in my opinion. Now let's start off with the first pick. So Evo Sega, definitely the knife to go for sure. Right now at the version which we have, Evo Sega's the only light and dark character in the pool. So by default, he's already very good for his formation versatility. Because if you have one light and dark character, if you then think about the remaining 4 knights, if they're all different elements, then you get a rainbow color formation. If they are not all 4 different elements, then by default, 2 of them must have the same element, and now if we have Evil Sega, then you have three knights of the same element, so you also guarantee a formation bonus there. And on top of that, right now, because Evil Sega is kind of what is the best character right now, there is almost a bit of a meta strategy in the game, which is to charge up your Cosmo as fast as you can so you release the first ultimate. And a lot of time, if you manage to release the first ultimate, then you manage to win the game because you could very likely wipe out one enemy, especially in this game mode when sometimes you are kind of forced to pick certain characters which are not very good, and therefore it's actually quite easy to wipe out one character. And as soon as you wipe out one character, you kind of go into a 5 versus 4 situation, which is very beneficial for you. So a lot of the time, this meta strategy is aimed at trying to launch your ultimate and try to kill off one enemy as soon as possible. Evil Sega obviously fits the bill because Evil Sega is strongest at the start of the game, so therefore he's very good at just kind of killing off at least one enemy right off the start of the battle. Um, and in fact, all of the rest of the first pick are kind of fall into similar kind of roles because we don't have Deathmask, Aquarius Camus, and Sirius. They are all very good at Cosmo control in the sense that Deathmask slow down how much Cosmo people get. Aquarius Camus frees them, therefore give you a head start on your Cosmo, and also Sirius just give you a boost to your initial Cosmo as well. So all of them kind of allow you to fight off the ultimate first, and like I said, whoever fights off the ultimate first right now in this meta kind of just wins the battle or have a very good chance of winning the battle. So all of them are the reason why they're first pick. Next we have Leo. If you actually look at the tier list on my channel, I normally don't put Leo so high up. I normally put Sagittarius in front of Leo, etc. However, in this mode where the positioning of the knights is not guaranteed, so even though earlier on I said you can kind of anticipate, but that's not guaranteed. And for anything which is not guaranteed, you typically want knights that's able to do damage to a lot of characters rather than zoning on a single character, which is why kind of Leo is a very good character, and kind of is I'll put him in front of Sagittarius currently in this kind of picking order. Okay, so now we don't have the second tier, which is counterpick. And like I said, they are very good characters for you to have. However, in terms of which character you pick out of this counterpick, kind of depends on who your opponent have. The reason why Taurus is a good counterpick is that if the opponent have Evil Sega with Desma, then it's very likely they will have the lowest HP, and therefore Taurus skill kind of make them take damage when Taurus take damage. So Taurus is a very good counterpick to Evil Sega and Desma. Sagittarius is just a good counterpick pretty much to any character, but also especially for Evil Sega and Deathmark because Sagittarius a lot of time release the ultimate first, even after loads of like Cosmo control such as from Deathmark. Sagittarius is still able to release the ultimate first, so you definitely don't want the opponent to have, let's say, both Deathmark and Aquarius Canvas and Sirius because then they will become a bit unstoppable. But if they only have one of them, Sagittarius is like is still going to be the first one to fire off the ultimate. And if you manage to position Sagittarius correctly, he's just absolutely deadly. So he's just a very good counter pick for any fragile character such as Evil Sega and Desmond. Um, then we have Misty and Arius Mu. Um, the reason why they are also what I put as counter pick is that they are more defensive knights who is able to provide you a shield. Now, if you remember what I said earlier, right now the meta strategy is trying to release your ultimate in order to kill off one enemy as soon as possible. However, if your Aris Mu and Misty is able to put a shield up before that happens, a lot of time you're able to protect your knights and therefore survive the first wave of enemy ultimate. And if you manage to survive that, there's a good chance you're able to turn the battle around. So that's why they are not my first pick. However, they're a very good counter pick when you realize the enemy strategy is trying to take out one enemy as fast as possible. Next, we have Argo. Argo, generally, I wouldn't put him so high, but he's just such a good counterpick to Leo because Leo's ultimate do damage multiple times. If any of them hit Argo, then each attack would have a chance to petrify him. And as soon as Leo's petrified, he's not able to, his ultimate just stops there and he's not able to attack any further. So Leo is just a very good counterpick to Leo. Sorry, Argo just a very good counterpick for Leo, and that's the reason why I have him here. And also, just in general, Protector Knights are actually valued slightly more in this game mode because the way that you only see 12 Knights up front, a lot of time you wouldn't actually have a lot of Protector Knights in general, and you are picking, you and your opponents are trying to pick the Protector Knights out of all of them. There's only 5 Protector Knights in the game right now. There's a good chance that only 2 or 3 appears in the initial 12. So just in general, protectiveness are actually valued quite highly in this game. So that's another reason why Argo is pretty good. Okay, now let's talk about this triangle mini meta I talked about in terms of Sagittarius ROS. Now, like I said, Sagittarius, even when the enemy is trying to control a Cosmo, Sagittarius can still often be the first one to fire off his ultimate. And if his ultimate manages to kill off someone, then he recharges his ultimate. And often if done correctly, he can actually do this like 3 times in a row. And that can kill off essentially 3 enemies in a row. So then you're up 5 against 2. So very, very powerful. It's not a first pick because it can be a bit situational depending on positioning. But if utilized well, he's just absolutely deadly. And that's why there's almost a mini meta, in my opinion, for Sagittarius, where you have knights who can help Sagittarius to overcome certain Cosmo control. So you have Hound Asteria, who recharge Cosmo very fast. And because Sagittarius' ability is that whenever your ally recharge Cosmo, then you also get a Cosmo boost. So Hound Asterion allows Sagittarius to charge up even further. And also you have Mermaid Tetris, who links up with the highest attacking power one. So you have to be careful with Mermaid Tetris because maybe Sagittarius is not actually the highest attacking power one in your line. But let's say if he is, then Mermaid Tetris is going to make him go even faster in terms of his Cosmo and also higher attack, therefore much more likely to kill off an enemy with his ultimate as well. So they are very good pairing with Sagittarius and try to really utilize Sagittarius to his fullest and make him kind of the center strategy in your team. And as a result, there are also good characters that you probably want to bring in just to counter this, to make sure Sagittarius doesn't really go into this massive snowball effect mode. And the ones here would be Potomi. So Potomi deletes the Cosmo of the enemy with the highest Cosmo. And like I said, most likely if the enemy has Sagittarius, that's going to be Sagittarius for sure. So Potomi is just a very good counter for Sagittarius. And then you have Agati and Moses. Moses have elemental advantage against Sagittarius, so half of Sagittarius to kill off in one go. And also Agati has this power of death ability where even if he's killed off, he's invincible and still stay on the field. And during that invincible stage, any attacks Sagittarius have will still be aiming at him because he's still the one Sagittarius can target, but it's not going to do anything. So it kind of protects your other knights as a result. So they are very good counter pick for Sagittarius. And the idea for those two is that you want to pick your damage dealer behind Moses or Agati. Because when I mentioned about the order of attacks is that when you wipe out a back row enemy, the next target they're gonna go for is the front line directly in front of them. So let's say if I hide Evil Sega in front of behind Agati with Moses, even if Sagittarius managed to kill off Evil Sega and therefore charges his ultimate again, he is not going to be able to kill off Agati with Moses straight away. So therefore, even though you are still 4 against 5, at least you prevented a very bad situation of 2 versus 5. So that's why they're pretty good counter to Sagittarius. Okay, next, there's not too much to talk about in terms of formation deciders. You kind of just use them in order to complement your team to get a very good positioning. And likewise, formation fillers, you don't normally want to pick them. Now, in any situation where you turns out of the 12 visible knights, vast majority falls at the bottom of this list, such as mostly only counter pick for certain situation, or just good characters but not necessarily the best one to get. That's potentially when you want to try your luck in the full unseen knights to see whether there's a good chance for you to get one of the higher pick one. So that's basically kind of my picking order in terms of which knights to go for first. Something else I will briefly talk about is also you need to know which characters can be put up in front instead of a protector knight, because like I said, there's only five protector knights in this game right now. It's very likely that you wouldn't be able to find two in your team, so you kind of need to know which other knights can be put up front to put as a protector knight and still kind of hold the frontline defense. A few good obvious choices will be the likes of your warrior knights and also some assist knights who also have decent defense. So your Arismu, your Misty, your Sirius, your Leo, etc. They're all okay as a frontline substitute. But I will also talk about a few other alternatives that you normally don't think of as frontline. Um, Sagittarius, I think, is a very good frontline candidate alongside with Desmond. That's because both of them tend to fire off Cosmo pretty fast, and when they fire off, there are chances where they would be able to leech health of the enemy and therefore recover. Like Sagittarius also at maximum close has the ability to become invincible for a few seconds. So even though they are quite fragile by themselves, but because they have skills that allow them to self-recover, they're actually not too bad in terms of frontline candidate. Another frontline candidate that you may not think of is Pisces Aphrodite. That's because when he is killed off, he actually inflict poison damage equal to how much poison the opponent had in the battle so far. So he's a interesting choice for frontline because you can actually make him to go and die off quickly, just so that you are able to poison the opponents and make it easier for the rest of your team. So that's another interesting pick for frontline. But yeah, essentially, when you're picking your knights, because there's a high chance that you're not able to get five knights and two of them happen to be protected knights. When you're choosing a lineup, you just kind of need to have in your head, okay, what would be the best suitable alternative to a protected knight so that you can actually put them up front. Now I'm going to show some clips of how I have used all of the strategies in the game. So in the first battle, I had the first pick, so obviously I have picked Evil Seiya as a result. Now the enemy has then picked Arismu and Desmart. So now with Desmart trying to slow my Cosmo gaining speed down, I would have picked Sirius in order to give me that Cosmo boost at the start of the battle, trying to turn the tide. And also the rest of the character pool is not actually very nice, so I have decided to take one of the unseen characters. Now normally I wouldn't recommend to do that so early in the picking order, because you still want to go for a bit of formation bonus, and picking a random knight can kind of deter what kind of formation you can build. However, because I have Evil Sega anyway, so that kind of guarantees me at the very worst case three knights of the same color. So it didn't really matter that much, which is why I decided to just take a chance anyway and pick one of the unseen knights. And I managed to get a pretty good knight, which is Elgati as well. Now, because I have both a Fire Knight and Earth Knight, I should be going for Rainbow formation. So naturally, the next knight I should be going for should be a Water and a Wind. However, you see that the last Water Knight, Marine, has actually been picked by my opponent, so good counter pick for them there. So that kind of forced me to go into picking my last two as the unseen knights again. But I got very lucky there. In fact, I still got a water and wind to complete my rainbow formation. Okay, now let's talk about the position of my knights. What you notice is that if I have to predict what the enemy have and what they're going to choose, they will have Marine and Libradorco very likely as the front line. I don't know who's their last character, but it's a high chance it won't be a Protector Knights. So, I'm going to predict their first choice will be Marine, and therefore Marine will be on the left hand side. and Liberdork will be the second pick, and therefore on the right hand side. So what that would mean is my Agate will be up against Marine, so that's elemental disadvantage for me, and also my Sirius will be up against Liberdork, another elemental disadvantage. So what you will see is that I will actually swap my front line around. Now my Sirius is up against their Marine, so I have elemental advantage rather than disadvantage, and likewise my Agate being fire has elemental advantage against Liberdork. So that's the decision I have taken to swap my knights around. Likewise, for the back row, I noticed Arrows Mu is their first back line, so there's a high chance that Arrows Mu is going to be in the middle, which is why I saw my Mermaid Tetris to the middle to gain the elemental advantage there. And if you look into the battle, you see indeed Arrows Mu is in the middle, so I have got elemental advantage there, and also the enemy's Marines on the left hand side and Liberdorkos on the right hand side, so I managed to get my elemental advantage there as well, with my Sirius up against their Marine and my Agate up against their Liberdorko. So yeah, so I managed to do the best I can in this case. Got lucky with the rainbow formation as well, which is why I was able to win this battle pretty easily, I think. Cool. Now in the second game, I'm picking second, so very likely the enemy will pick Evil Sega first, which makes sense. Now I need to slow down when Evil Sega release the ultimate, so I decided to pick a Crest Chemist, so that's kind of my first pick. For the second pick, I had a few choices, mainly between Leo and my Sagittarius. I decided to go for Sagittarius in the end, because I realized that there's also Hound Asterion, and if I get lucky, I can charge up my Sagittarius extremely fast, because I am preventing the enemy from getting across Camus to slow me down, and I can even combo him up with Hound Asterion to make him go even faster. And hopefully, with the right positioning, I can try to target the evil Sega. So that's why I pick Sagittarius instead of Leo in this occasion. Now let's see what the enemy would pick. Okay, so the enemy has picked Leo and Aris Mu now, so clearly they're not trying to go for a rainbow color formation, they're instead trying to go for multiple fire knights. Now, what I would then see is that, okay, fine, there's actually two fire knights left, so I kind of want to prevent them from getting the maximum bonus of 25%, because then I'll be at a bit of a disadvantage there. So I definitely want to pick one of the fire knights remaining, and Agate is obviously a better choice here. And like I mentioned, I definitely want Hound Asterion to give my Sagittarius a bit of an extra boost as well. So that's why I picked Hound Asterion and Agate. Now let's see what the opponent picks. Opponents decide to go for full house now with fire and wind. However, I still need my formation bonus, which is I picked Babel for my last slot to ensure at least I get a better formation bonus rather than nothing. So now in terms of positioning, like I said, Sagittarius is actually a good candidate to be put up front. Definitely the best one out of the remaining one, which is why I put Agate and Sagittarius up front. Now both of them being fire knights, there's not really too much I need to do in terms of positioning there. So let's just go straight into this battle. That's all for the video today. If you enjoyed the content, please do like, share and subscribe to my channel. It means a lot to me to know that there are actually people out there benefiting from my guide and motivate me to share more knowledge in the future. If there's any topic that you want me to cover, please drop me a note in the comment section. Thank you for watching and see you next time.